So, everything's changing. Now is probably not the time to say I told you so, but I did kind of predict a Trump win like 3 or 4 months ago on this video. And I think I didn't want to be right, but I think I pretty much hit quite a lot of the nails on the head. I don't want to go into the reasons why Hillary lost the Electoral College and therefore the presidency, because I think that enough people are talking about that and speculating about it. At the end of the day, they're speculations. I think that the most important thing that we can do now is do what we Brits had to do after Brexit and accept the result, but continue with our values and resolve and be ready to be the checks and balances for the next however many years. The truth is, modern day liberal politics have failed an awful lot of people. In the UK, it's the traditionally industrial North. In the US, it's the traditionally industrial Midwest, the Rust Belt. Those people are traditionally the white working class of both of our great nations. And ever since economic liberalisation was kind of brought into our countries, and these manufacturing industries were gutted, decimated, in certain cases legitimately. I mean, you can't mine mud from a coal mine and still expect it to make money. And there was, in the face of globalisation, always going to be a shift from each nation itself having its own kind of like working class manufacturing hubs as they moved abroad. People probably should have seen that coming. See, in the past, when you were a working class labourer in a steel mill or a coal mine, you had a strong community there. You had something that you were a part of, and a lot of that was based around the fact that people were part of unions. It was hard, honest work, is the phrase that's often used to describe that kind of era in American and European manufacturing. And those jobs gradually got moved abroad. And although in the grand scheme of things we've been doing a lot better economically and in terms of employment than a lot of our Western cousins in the UK and the USA, there's been an overhang of what happened when those traditional working class communities were decimated by the lack of those kind of like umbrella industries that held together towns and communities and that were characterized by a sense of identity, by a union and by a sense of self. If you're in it with a load of other people, you can say to yourself, we're in this together, we're working together. But when that gets transplanted, or when that morphs into a couple of shifts at a petrol station or at a co-op or in the local garden centre, where there aren't those communities that allow for you to have something to identify with and be proud of, that's how we've ended up with the type of resentment that we have in white majority working class communities in both the UK and the US. And too many politicians were able to blame the other. People who aren't generally present in a lot of these communities right now. People who are of ethnic minority backgrounds, recent immigrants, people who are Muslim, people who are from Eastern Europe, people who are from Mexico, people who are undocumented workers. And they were blamed, rather than the politicians who ended up letting down these communities that used to be the beating heart and the lungs of each of our countries. That's how we got Brexit and that's how we got Trump. And I think the world is gonna change into something that people our age, millennials, are scarcely going to recognise, because we've only ever really existed in these socially liberal worlds where we're able to travel extensively, where we can hold same-sex partners' hands walking down the street and know that we have a right to do so, that you have the right to wear your religion on your sleeve. That is going to change. Traditionally, Europe and the USA have been strongholds of stability. And the reason that stability is really important is that if you don't have stability, people aren't willing to spend their money in your country, they're not willing to invest in projects in your country, and we've been held up as like really strong, powerful nations because of our sense of stability and because of the fact that our democracy has been seen as overwhelmingly strong throughout the 20th and this part of the 21st century. Now, where is stability in the world? It's places like China, places like Russia, both authoritarian single-party states in their own kind of like way, but different ways of governing. But that's how you get stability now. And I was somewhat joking when I was tweeting on election night when Trump's numbers were coming in by Chinese yuan. By Chinese yuan. No, it's not funny anymore. The stability that's going to be afforded to those countries is going to change the political discourse and the shift. Not to mention the fact that Trump is talking very openly about decreasing the amount of investment that the US has in NATO, even pulling out of international agreements on climate change. Somehow though, I feel quite chipper about the whole thing. I feel like there's something to contrast ourselves against. We would have compromised with somebody like Hillary Clinton. Although, to be completely honest, as a non-American, I would have, like a Clinton presidency wouldn't have affected me in a huge way. But I feel like we have an international discourse now with the right wing of the Conservative Party kind of being in charge now in the United Kingdom, with Trump preparing to take office and strip away all of the progressive stuff that Barack Obama has done. Marine Le Pen emboldened by the way that politics has been going in France's allies. But this is where we have to dust ourselves off and get to work and be that effective voice. There is hope, I think, and that hope is probably in this graphic that shows how 18 to 25-year-olds voted in the American election. Biggest landslide in American history. Hillary gets over 500 electoral college votes. It's a shame that older people can vote. Just gonna have to wait for them to die. I'm optimistic about this map, despite the fact that I know that people tend to become more and more conservative, both fiscally and socially, as they get older. But something is different about our generation. It's a lot more difficult for us to be able to blame people who are the other, because by design of the society that we've grown up in, we are more likely to know LGBTQ+ people. We're more likely to know people of colour. We're more likely to know people who practice Islam. We're more likely to know people who are undocumented immigrants, if you're in the United States especially. And once you know those people in your lives, it's so much harder to demonise them. One of the reasons that LGBT rights have accelerated arguably so much quicker than rights of people of colour did and have is because we're scattered throughout the population. We are a statistical kind of like anomaly across human beings as a whole. And as people started to come out as queer in some way, shape or form, and people realised that they had brothers, sisters, cousins, friends who identified as LGBT, it became a lot harder to say that these people were deplorable and immoral human beings. And I think that millennials especially are much less likely, because of the open media and the open world that we've experienced growing up. It's a lot harder for us to demonize people based on their backgrounds. And that's what makes me really positive about the future. That's not to say that we don't have a hard slog going forward, but I'm willing to get my elbows dirty and be visible and to talk and to politely disagree. Don't be violent like the knobheads in Oregon at the moment. I don't think that helps anybody. I think that increases the legitimacy of people like Trump. Clinton lost. Soz. But let's get on with things and make the world great again. Because it's going to be rough. Please look after each other. Stand up when you see injustice, if you can be safe to. Support people who are probably going to have a rough time. Especially in the US at the moment, we saw hate crime increase a significant amount in the UK after the Brexit vote. I fear that you guys are going to go through the same thing. Be there for one another. Surround yourself with people that you love, and we'll be all right. Eat good food, drink good wine, all of that bullshit. If you'd like to hear me speak more about this, me and my podcast co-host Jimmy spoke extensively about this in our podcast, which just came out. Click in the corner of the video, wherever the bloody hell that is, and let me know what you think. Have you got the fire in your belly? Are you being pragmatic as I am? Or do you just want to scream into the void? If you think this will help, share this video. I've been rhyming with oranges. Toodaloo.